The Minnesota Vikings are in one of the toughest divisions in football. Two Super Bowl contenders in the Lions and Packers. The Bears looking to vault themselves into playoff contention with Caleb Williams and that unbelievable group of pass catchers. Where does that leave the Vikings heading into this 2024 campaign? We're going to talk about it here today. If you enjoy the content here, please consider subscribing. So I'm not going to bury the lead. I am picking the Vikings to come in last place in the division, but I think they are on a path to success long term if they can navigate a couple of key factors, key areas of this roster and of this team's future, right? So they reset at quarterback. They moved on from Kirk Cousins. I think that was the smart play. Look, Kirk Cousins is a quarterback that can get you to the playoffs. Is that the ultimate goal? Like in a league that is filled with Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, guys like Jordan Love in the NFC, teams like the Lions and the 49ers. Is Kirk Cousins a quarterback that can win you a Super Bowl without an absolute dream team around him? Even with a dream team around him, I don't think he is a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. I don't. So is making the playoffs the ultimate goal? I think the answer has to be no, right? You're not doing all this work to just make the playoffs. You're trying to win a Super Bowl, right? You're trying to win the first Super Bowl in Vikings team history. So we're going to look at this football team from the top down. It's not a bad roster at all. But again, at the most important position, you pivoted from Kirk Cousins. You have Sam Darnold and a rookie in J.J. McCarthy, who has a ways to go, in my opinion, to reach his ceiling. So how is that going to go in 2024? What's the quarterback position going to look like? I really have no clue how it's going to happen, how it's going to go down. Kevin O'Connell, another Sean McVay assistant turned head coach, another success story. Kevin O'Connell has been a great head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, in my opinion. My guy, Brian Flores, on defense, just a menace. I believe they led the league in blitzes. We're close to the top in dropping 8 as well. He is so creative. He is willing to do whatever it takes on that side of the ball with the talent he has to win football games. And I think you saw, even though the Vikings, they weren't a very talented defense last year. They really were not. They were able to give some teams some trouble. And that's in large part thanks to their defensive coordinator, Brian Flores, and his creativity, his game plan ability, his ability to teach and get complex ideas across to his players. So I think they have a great coaching situation. Skill position players, it's pretty damn elite here. Justin Jefferson, ever heard of him? Best receiver in the NFL, highest paid receiver in the NFL. Jordan Addison, a very good young football player at the wide receiver position. TJ Hawkinson, one of the best tight ends in the league. And at running back, you bring in Aaron Jones. Feels fitting, right? Packer turned Viking. Packers are like, we don't want him. We're going to move on. We're going to go get Josh Jacobs, get younger. Aaron Jones fits this offense to a T. You still have Ty Chandler as well. A lot of fun behind Aaron Jones there. A lot of speed and athleticism with Ty Chandler. So love the skill position talent in Minnesota. There's no question about that. Offensive line, great tackle duo in my mind. Interior OL, you could be a little more consistent. I think that you'd like to hope that Ed Ingram takes a step forward this year. Garrett Bradbury, he's fine. Dalton Risner, fine. But I think you could be looking to upgrade the interior of that offensive line down the road potentially. We'll see how all that shakes out. I don't think it's like a group that's prohibitive to winning football games, but could you improve? I do think so. Not stoked on the beef up front, but adding Jonathan Grenard, adding Andrew Van Ginkel, and Dallas Turner as edge rushers, that obviously reshapes the entire outlook of the edge rush group. I think that the interior defensive line could still use some work. Like, you don't have horrible football players up front. I think that you've got some guys that you can work with, especially with Brian Flores dialing it up. But that's certainly an area the Vikings could improve down the road. But looking at Grenard, who's coming off a career year with the Texans, love that addition. Andrew Van Ginkel, very underrated football player. Brian Flores knows how to get the most out of this guy. I think he's going to be a great DPR. And then Dallas Turner, one of the best fits in the draft. And it's such a conundrum for me because I love the fit of Dallas Turner in Minnesota. Brian Flores using him as a rusher, using him to move around the defensive front, using him as someone who can drop into coverage and wreak havoc and be very comfortable in space. The length, the athleticism, it's all there for Dallas Turner. Yes, he needs to develop more of a consistent pass rush. He needs to develop counters more consistently. But physically, it's all there for Dallas Turner, and I have no doubt that Brian Flores will get the most out of him. The reason it's a conundrum for me is the process of how they acquired him. They traded a lot of draft capital to get up to 18 to acquire Dallas Turner. Now, landing him at 18, that's pretty nice. Like, definitely could have gone earlier. But you gave up a lot. You traded up with the Texans. You gave up 2 second-round picks to get to 23, I believe it was. Then you trade up with the Jags, my football team. You give them your first, a third, a fourth. Gave up a lot, right? So I think that Dallas Turner is a great fit. I think that does make the future a little interesting in terms of draft capital. The Vikings are going to get, I believe, a compensatory pick for Kirk Cousins. Still, though, a little bit shaky on the future front for the draft, but as of right now, still, I like the direction with Dallas Turner. At linebacker, Ivan Pace was a perfect fit last year. He can blitz like nobody's business. They bring in Blake Cashman from Houston. Should thrive in this defense, in my opinion, coming off a career year. They're going to know how to deploy him, study the blueprint from what he did in Houston last year. At corner, not a huge fan. Byron Murphy is solid. I do really like Mekhi Blackman, and I love Kyrie Jackson as well. His energy, length, his play demeanor. I think Kyrie Jackson can make it in the league. Very old prospect, though. He's a rookie. I think he's 25 years old. I don't like Shaq Griffin in the starting lineup at this point for me. Do not like to see that for them. Can he survive? Maybe. But I would love to see Blackman or Jackson kind of step up and be that guy with Byron Murphy in the starting lineup. So when you're looking at this Vikings team in 2024, there's a lot to work with. The question is, at quarterback, how long does Sam Darnold start? Do we get the best of him under Kevin O'Connell? He has the physical talent to perform. An unbelievable group of players to get the football to. Can we see the best of Sam Darnold in Minnesota? And how long are we going to see him for before J.J. McCarthy finds the field? When is J.J. McCarthy going to be ready to go out there and play decent football? I do have some questions about his mechanics, especially in the lower body with his feet. Throwing left was really, really difficult for him last year in Michigan. But a player who has all the traits, and I think the footwork is totally correctable. Totally correctable. Love his intangibles. His athleticism, the arm talent, I think is there. The zip he can put on the football. I think he can also throw with some touch. I think he's shown the ability to push the ball into tight windows, to throw with some anticipation, to be a playmaker, both with his arm and his legs. So I'm excited for the fit there. You've got the coaching. You've got the roster in a lot of spots. Again, I'd like to see upgrades on the interior of both lines potentially down the road, maybe corner potentially, depending on how it plays out with some of your young guys there with Blackman and Jackson. Can they really prove themselves? I like them both a lot, but again, I think it's fair to say you might need to upgrade a corner in the future. You might need to upgrade the interior of those lines of scrimmage. But ultimately, it comes down to, is J.J. McCarthy the guy? I think he can be, with his talent level, his intangibles, and the support system around him. Again, coaching, receiving talent, running talent, good tackles. I think it's going to be a fruitful future for the Minnesota Vikings. I just don't know how quickly it's all going to come together in 2024. If you're a Vikings fan, would love to know what you think. Drop your thoughts in the comment section below. If you enjoy the content, please consider subscribing. Y'all have a good one.